Hello and namaste everyone. Welcome back to my channel. So in this video we are going to work on a new RESTful application which is going to be event management. So in this project we are going to keep it everything simple so that a new Java developer or a beginner can also understand what we are going to do. So we are going to use Spring Boot, H2 and REST in this project. Nothing else, nothing more. To test our application we are going to use Postman. Now before we actually work on this project, if you are new to my channel, I am humbly requesting you to please subscribe to my channel. I see that a lot of people are simply watching my videos but they are not subscribing to my channel. Please do that. It is very hurtful that you guys are not subscribing. So let's kickstart this video. So first thing first is that we need to create the project, for which we are going to go with Spring Initializer. Now talking about what dependencies we need Spring Web, that is the very first thing. Then you need something to connect to the database, which is going to be your JPA. Now your database, as I said, is going to be H2. And then you need dev tools so that you don't have to restart every time. It automatically does it for you. Now are we missing anything? We can add one more thing, which is your validation. Alright, now let's change the name here. So let's do event management app, and we need to keep Maven, and yeah, everything is good. Let's explore. So we have web validation, JPA, and where is H2 dev tools. All right, so we can download this and let's just extract this and import it to Eclipse or whatever IDE you are using. So extracting. Now let's import. Event management app, select, finish. So the very first thing is that we need to create a structure here. Currently we don't have anything, if you see. So to generate that structure, let's first understand what do we need. So we need 4 basic things. First is your model, as in your entities on which you are going to operate on. These are going to be the tables inside your database. Second is your controller. The controller is basically your main core of this application, through which you define logic and in which basically you are going to have your service calls, as in your REST APIs. Now to make model and controller work, we also need a DAO and a service layer, which is your repo and service. The last thing that you can use as an optional thing could be your exception handling. So you can use global exception handling here. Now this is it that we need. So before we actually create our structure, let's first make our change in application.properties. So these properties we need to use. Let's understand. So the very first thing is the URL, as in where your database lies. So this is an in-memory database, so that is why we have mem, and this is a H2 type, that's why H2, and then the database name. We have our driver class name, which is your S2 driver. Then you have username and password, which is by default given to us. Then what platform are we using? So we are using Hibernate S2 dialect. And do we need to enable console so that we can use the queries to verify if we have the data or if we have the required data in those tables or not. So I can use S2 console and log in there, hit the query and see if I am seeing everything in proper place or not, right? So this is what we need to do in application.properties. Now coming back to the project structure, very first thing is that you need entities. So for that I need to create multiple classes. So let's understand what classes do we need or what tables. So this is an event management application, so you would have events, so that is your first table. Then an event is actually being conducted at a venue, so you need a venue entity. Now the venue or the entity could be of a particular category, so that's your third thing. Then you need attendees, as in who is going to attend that event. So right now we have 4 things that we need to do: attendee, category, event, and venue. So let's quickly create those. So package name that I'm going to use is entities or model, whatever works for you. So very first thing, let's do attendee. So I'm going with alphabetical order here, so never mind that. Now as I said, this is going to be entity, so let's use entity here. If you want to change the table name, then you can use the table annotation with the name attribute, but I don't want to do that because we are keeping it simple. Now the very first variable that we need is ID. This is going to be a primary key for your table, and I want this to be automatically generated, so generated value. Now we need to keep a strategy here, generation type dot identity. All right, now an attendee has to provide few details, as in her name, then email address or mobile number, whatever works. Then simply we need to map this with event model. So right now we don't have event, so let's create that. Create class event, and this is in entities. Alright, we will work on that later. Now we have everything in place. So this is a column, this is a column, and this is a column. So here the main thing is that this is many to one mapping. Why? Because an attendee can only attend an event, but an event can have multiple attendees, right? So that is what we are defining here. Now join column, as in on which column do you want to join, so that we will define later, but it is going to be event ID. All right, everything in place. You can also check the documentation here. It specifies a column for joining an entity, association, or relation. Now we need setters and getters here, so let's generate those. We are good with attendee now. Now let's move on to event. So again, this is going to be entity and private long ID. This is going to be primary key for this table, and then generated value. Now you know the drill. Alright, now we need event title or description. So private string title, and then we need the date on which it is happening. So private local local date time, and date time. All right, did we import this? No, we didn't. All right, now we need to have some relations. So event can have multiple attendees. So very first thing is that we are going to have a list of attendee. So Okay, this is not useful at all. Anyways, attendees. Alright, now we have to define the relationship as in one to many, right? Now here we need to use attribute mapped by, and this is going to be mapped with event. Alrighty, now we have two more models. We have venue and we have category. So we are going to define them here as well. Now an event can be placed at a venue, but multiple events can also be placed at a venue. Also, multiple events can have a single category. So here we have two things. So private venue, a new, let's create the class. So like I said, many events can be hosted to a single venue. So many to one, and then your join column, name equals to venue ID. Now similarly for category, so private category, let's create the class and then use many to one and join column. Here it will be category underscore ID. Now we have everything, so let's generate setters and getters here. Alright, good enough. Now let's come back to venue and category. So in venue, what do we need? We need to have ID, that's the very first thing. Then we need name and location, and then we will have list of events. Alright, now let's copy this. For this we need to have one to many mapping, and then the attribute mapped by venue. Alright, now let's generate setters and getters here. For category, we don't need much, so first let's do this private long ID, and then only thing is name of the category, that's it. Let's generate getters and setters. Alrighty, so now we are done with models. Now let's work on DAO layer and service layer. So first thing is attendee repo, and we need a package. So attendee, and then long, that's it. And this is going to be same in every interface, so let's quickly do that. Now lastly we would have alright, so we are done with repo. Now let's continue with service layer. Alright, so now let's work on our service layer. So this is going to be a class. So let's annotate this with service. And for repositories, the repository annotation is optional. If you want to have it, you can have it, otherwise don't. Now let's annotate this. Alright, so we have the repo with us. Now the methods that we are going to have. So the very first method is your get all attendees. So this is going to return a list of attendees. So list, and we are going to use repo here, and then we will call method find all. That's it. Now second is get attendee by ID. So here we are going to have a simple single object attendee, and here we need ID to figure out which one to return. Now this returns an optional, so what you can do is either you can change this to optional or you can try this. So if couldn't find, then in that case throw an exception. Let's format this. Alright, now we are good. Now the major thing is to create an attendee object. So for this we are going to have a DTO class. So let's create that quickly. So what I'll do is I'll simply copy this, paste it, and I'll give the name attendee with event in DTO. That's it. Now here we have ID, name, email, and then we will have event details. So let me remove this and these ones as well, and we will have private log event ID. Now if you're thinking why we are having this, is because when I want to return the attendee object, then I want to print a signifying message saying for this event these were the attendees. So I don't want a lot of information, I want a simple information in a simple format. So that's why I'm formatting this a bit so that I can beautify this in the response. Now I need a constructor here, something like this. Then we need setters and getters. Alright, so good enough. Now this is not going to be an entity, first thing, and this is not going to be a primary key. Alright, now let's use attendee DTO here. Now here we will have two things basically. First is going to be your event ID and then the attendee object. So what we are going to do is we have to use event repo here. So private event. Why we are using this is because I want to figure out on which event the attendee participated. So it could be that the event does not exist, like the number that we are providing is not in the database, so we want to validate. So that's why we are using this. Let's auto wire this. Okay, so event repo dot, we have method find by ID. So remember, here we are calling the repo, not the service. The service class is really optional. If you want to have it, then use it, otherwise repo works for. So this is something you can figure out if you need service class or not, because service class is really optional. You can make it work using service class or without it. Alright, now we have to store it. So now this is another way to handle optional data. So event obj. So take a look here. So this is what we could have done in this method as well. Alright, so now we have the event object with us. So what I will do is, first I'll verify that whether this object is there or not, whether it is null or not, right? So I can use isPresent method. If it is there, then okay. Otherwise what I'll do, I'll throw an exception, runtime exception, and here I'll say event not found with the given ID. Alright, now when it is present, in that case I need the object, so I will get it using our event object dot get. Now this we could have done in a single line, but because I want to keep it simple, I didn't do it. But yeah, there is more efficient way, remember that. Now create an object like this, then in the attendee object I'll set event like this, and then we will use saved attendee object from the repo, save attendee, something like this. Now this we have already stored in the database. So now to format this so that we can display back to the user, in that case first thing is that you need to format the date, otherwise this is just gibberish. So get date time and then format, use date time formatter, and then ISO local date. Alright, then store it into a variable event date. Now to return this object, I'll use the constructor of attendee DTO, and here we will have saved attendee dot get ID, then saved attendee dot get name, then saved attendee dot get email, then event dot get ID, event dot get title, and then event date. That's it. Now let's check the order if we have everything in place. ID, name, email, ID, name, email, and then event ID, event title, event date. Event ID, event title, event date. Alright, good enough. Let's save this. Now we could have another method to update attendee, but I don't want to have it for now. I'll keep this one in queue for the next video of this project, but we can have a simple method for now is delete attendee. Alright, so here we need long ID, and we will use attendee repo dot delete by ID. Delete by ID. That's it. We are done with attendee service. Alright, now let's work on the next one, which is your event service. Alright, so service private event repo. Let's auto wire this. Now what we need get all events, get event by ID, similar stuff, but here we will have create and update and delete. So let me quickly create those because it is going to be simple enough. Alright, so now let's understand what I did. The get all events is similar to what we did with attendee service. Same goes for event by ID. Create event is really small, and for update event I have another thing in place, is that when you have event details that you want to save, so these are the updated event details. First you check if these are null or not. So if these are null, in that case I want to throw the exception, otherwise I'll move ahead with setting the ID and then save it to the database. For delete, I'm first fetching it to see if it is there or not, and then I'm deleting it. So here you can have another check. So you can say if existing event not equals to null, in that case only delete. Otherwise throw an exception, because we don't want an empty event to be deleted, right? So throw new runtime exception. Couldn't find an event with the given ID. Alright, so we are done with event service. Now let's continue. We need category service and venue service. Alright, so here again this is going to be very simple, so let's not discuss more into it. Alright, so this is what we have. We have all these 4 methods which we already seen before, nothing much. Now this is going to be the same case in venue, so let's have it there. Alright, so here I changed a logic. So when you were seeing the delete venue, this is the second way to do it. So you can use find by ID, and then you can use or else, and then in the same line you don't have to use if or else condition, right? Now for the update venue, again I'm checking for the existence, and then I'm throwing it if it doesn't exist, and then I'm updating the details, saving it. Alright, so this is what you can do here in if you want to have update category method here, right? Okay, so we are done with service layer as well. Now let's create controllers, the core and major thing. So let's start with our attendee controller. and this is going to be in a new package. Let's close everything up. Use REST controller, and then a parent mapping. Okay, I use controller. Okay, attendees. Alright, now first thing and the major thing is that you need to have attendee service. If you didn't have attendee service, in that case you have to use attendee repo. Alright, so what are we going to have here? We are going to have get all attendees, get attendee by ID, and then create attendee, lastly delete attendee. Alright, so what we have is we have get all attendee method where I'm simply calling the method. Same goes for this one. So these two are your get mappings. For post mapping, we need an event ID on which the attendee wants to attend. So we have event ID here, and then we have attendee object. So here we are creating a DTO object, as we have already talked about. So if we are able to successfully create it, then we are sending OK and the object along with it. And delete is pretty much simple. So yeah, so this is that. Now let's work on event controller. So this is the major stuff. So REST controller, and then request mapping, and here we will have API events. Now what do we have here is we created the object event service. We have get all event method, get event by ID, then we have create and update as well, and then we have delete. Alright, so do remember I have done two type of stuff. So like I said here, the first thing is that you can use response entity.ok, which means this is 200 OK. The second thing is that you can use response status annotation as well, which means that this is an alternate of using response entity logic here. So these are the two ways that I wanted to show, right? Alrighty, so we are done with event controller. Now let's create venue and category controller as well. Alright, so explanation part. So nothing much, as you already know, everything is similar to what we have done before, right? So I don't think there is anything to explain here, but yeah, so if you have any question, do let me know in the comment section. Now the last is your category controller. So now this is again pretty much like what we have seen before. If you have any question, do let me know. The only thing and the only new addition is here we have request body, where we are having the category object, right? So if you don't understand this, let me know. I'll explain more onto this. And you can also check the documentation, which is very descriptive. Here if you see, it says this is a method parameter which is bound to the body of the web request. So when we will test this application, then also I'll guide you there. So we are about done with this code. First let's do a test run. Let's see if this is working as expected or not. So right click, run as Java application. And meanwhile, let me open Postman as well. Alright, so the application is started. Now let's work. So let's start with categories. So we have post mapping here, API categories. In the body we have name, conference. So when I click send, then it prints the ID and the name, and it says 201 created, which is appropriate. Now if you click on get and the mapping this, then it will show you that all the categories, but for now we have only one. And if you select, or if you try to get a single category, then it will display you only that. Now let's create a venue with the body main hall and the location this. So we don't have any events as of now, but we got the details. Alrighty, then you can try to get venues as well, similar to what we have seen in categories. So nothing special. Now let's create an event with the body this. So we have title, we have date, we have venue, and then we have category. So when you click send, you will see everything created, but you will see a lot of null values here. So just hold on to it, we will see these details in few minutes. Now we have attendee post here, so we have name and then we have email. So when I click send, I get ID, name, email, then the event details, like which event this attendee has to attend. Now if I try to get the event which I was showing you here we are seeing all the events, not just one. This is to fetch just one event. So when I click send, here if you see, we have an endless loop. What do we have? We have attendees, and then inside that we have event. Similarly, it is going on and on, right? So let's fix this. So this is happening in attendee, and inside that we have event relation. So this is causing the problem. So let's go to attendee.java. Here we have join column. So let's do one thing. In the event class, let's ignore this. So attendee this, let's do JSON ignore. So what does this annotation do? It marks that this property has to be ignored when you are actually printing out the response. So also in real terms, if you see, we have serialization and deserialization, which happens when you transform a class object to an outcome or a response basically. So this marks that do not serialize or do not deserialize this, ignore this, right? So that is what is going to happen for this. So let's save this, and we will see that we don't have anything in anywhere, so we have to recreate everything. So let's do that. Category is created, venue is created, and then event is also created. Now let's create the attendee, which is again created. Now let's fetch the event. Alright, so again I have an endless loop. Inside events, I'm getting all the events with the venue. Okay, now this is causing problem for venue, not attendee. So one problem solved, another to be solved. So let's go here, and let's do JSON ignore here as well. And just for the safe side, let's do it here also, because this information is going to be displayed through venue when you have list of events, and same case is for your category. Okay, for category we didn't have to do because we don't have a relationship here. Alright, so let's go back a step. Alright, now let's do the same steps again. Categories, venue, event, attendee, and lastly the major thing. Alright, so we got ID, we got title, date, name, category. Okay, we don't see venue and attendee here because it got ignored. Okay, so need to do some work here. Alright, so what I did is, instead of having JSON ignore here, which was causing the problem, I used JSON ignore in attendee and in venue. So let's see if it is fixing. Now let's see if it is fixing our problem. So categories, venues, and then event, attendee, and lastly our get mapping. Alright, so now we have ID, title, date, name, attendees, and then we have venue and category. Yeah, so this is working fine. Now let's hit one of the mapping to test if we see null there or not. Where did we see that? Okay, I forgot. Anyways, this is working. Now what we can do is let's add one more attendee and let's see if this is working. So this attendee here, let's do John Doe. Let's change John Doe. Let's send this. We got ID2 and let's hit this again. So now we got two attendees, 1 and 2. Alright, so it seems to be working fine. Now let's make some changes to this code. So what we are going to do is we are going to add some validations in this event class, not this event particularly, but all the entities class. So let's start with event because this is the major major table. So here the first thing is that we need is not null, and here we will say title cannot be null. Alright, now we can have another annotation, but let's keep it sync. We can have another annotation for size also, that this is the minimum and the maximum size limit, but that's okay. So here we will say date time. Let's do event date time cannot be null. Alright, so pretty much very simple thing. Let's do more. So on this attendees, we have JSON ignore. Alright, now for this what we'll do is we will have venue is required, and then let's copy and paste. Here we'll say category is required. Alright, now let's test. So let's go to event, and here let's remove this. Let's just do this. Now let's send this, and we got internal server error, not null property references a transient value. Alright, then the message is not null property transient instance must be saved before current operation. Alright, so it seems to be working fine, and if I remove this entire thing, then I get validation failed for argument 0, and I have proper error message, validation failed for object event, not null event category. So it is also saying like for which variable I am getting error. So yeah, so it seems to be working fine. So similarly what you can do is you can have these annotations for validation in each of the entities. Now let's do one more thing. So now what else that we can do is we can also have a global exception handler, and this is just to handle validations, but also you can enhance this to handle each and every type of exception. So let's create a class, and let's create another package. So this is going to be controller advice, and here for now I'm going to have only one method, which is going to be public handle let's say validation exception. Alright, Now here I'll say method argument not valid exception. Alright. So here what I want to do is I want to return a response entity. So let's do that. I want to return a response entity for every validation exception, so that a user will have a proper message rather than having a gibberish message in the postman, right? Because this doesn't really help when you print every exception stack trace. So here I want to print errors and then the HTTP status as bad request. Alright, now we'll do this later. First we need to figure out this error. So this error actually is going to be a map, and we are going to have string as key, string as value. Let's import this. Alright, now let's change the return type. Okay, let's do generics here. Okay, now to fill this, what we will do is we will use the exception that we are getting, then we will get the binding result, we will fetch all the errors, and then we will iterate over each error using lambda expression. Alright, now we will get only two things from each error. First that we need is field name, and the second that we need is error message. So this is going to be error dot, I think first we need to parse it. Okay, so field error something, so we have to cast it like this, and then we can use get field method. Okay, now error dot get default message, so simple. Then we will just put it into the map. Alrighty, let's save. Oops, what did I do? Okay, so it's saved. I don't know if now let's see if this is working fine. So let's send this. So let's modify this a bit. Here what I will do is I'll keep title as empty. Alright, now let's send this. Okay, and it doesn't seem to be working. Okay, let's restart our application. Okay, now let's send this. Okay, so weird thing is that it created with the empty title. Somehow it didn't actually work. Okay, let's test where did it went wrong. So in event we have not null, and in event controller first we are validating. Okay, so I understand why this is happening. the condition is for null. This is not actually null, this is empty, so this is something else. So just to check, what I can do is I can have a condition like this, and let's see. Alright, now let's send categories, venues, and now this is empty. Alright, so I got internal server error, no validator could be found for constraint. Okay, so I applied size annotation here instead of here. Really stupid of me. Anyways, let's do the same steps over and over again. Now, okay, events title is empty. Let's send this. Alright, so the reason I think that we are getting a lot of things in the response is because we missed two annotations. So first is your response status. So here you need HTTP status. Alright, the second is exception handler. So here you would need, so let me copy this rather than just typing it out. So we need this to be handled, and this is the major thing that we missed. So let's save this. Alright, so it's done. Now let's redo everything, hopefully for the last time. Category is done, venue is done, events is done, and then we have, okay, event, for event we had this title, right? So now we got 400 bad requests, and the only piece of information that we want to say is title must be between 1 and 255 characters. Let's say if I remove this entirely from here and click send, in that case I'm getting title cannot be null. So this is how you can add validations and handle it globally. So it's not like you have to handle it for each and every type. This is going to work for every validation. Then if you take a look at the code in especially your controller class, where you have the reference of service. So let's take a look at one service. So here if you see, we are throwing runtime exception, which is very generic, right? So if you want, you can have a custom exception which you can keep in the package exception, and then you can have an exception handling for that particular exception. So this is going to be completely custom depending on what you require. So I'll try to enhance this in the next video, but this is it for now. And this is it for today. I'll try to modify this project more and more in future videos. I'll enhance this, but only if this video is being watched by a lot of viewers. Otherwise there is no purpose of creating the video, right? So make this video popular and I'll enhance this project, otherwise I'll work on something new. So that's it for today, and if you have any questions, do let me know in the comment section. I'll put this project in GitHub so that you can copy it. So alright, let's wrap this video. So have a good day, keep learning, stay happy, and bye bye.